How transgenderism moved from being a psychological issue to become a political nightmare. This is an excerpt from the book, Law Change Regret: The Harmful Social Effects of Transgender Legislation by Stephen Stacy. The key topics we will cover are: what the field of gender identity disorder looked like before 2013. Then, how a coup based on lies took place in this field of psychology in 2014. Lastly, we will look at some of the social damage that the lies are causing children. Pre-2013, people who struggled with gender confusion were said to have a gender identity disorder. It was a very small field of psychiatry with very few patients. Hence, very few research papers were written. Most of these papers dealt with children, mainly boys. Also, a tiny number of middle-aged men struggled with a psychological disorder called autogenophilia. These males became sexually aroused when seeing themselves dressed and acting like women. There have been gender clinics in Western nations since the 1980s. The children who were referred to these clinics typically fit into one or more of the following categories. The vast majority had some form of pre-existing psychological disorder. On top of these underlying mental issues, some 30% were autistic, so they found it hard to relate to their same-sex peers. And over half were experiencing unwanted same-sex attraction, on a short or long-term basis, and didn't know how to handle these feelings. Other groups included boys with a more feminine nature who were bullied at school. Hence, we have this article titled, How the Only NHS Transgender Clinic for Children Buried the Fact That 372 of 1,069 patients were autistic. Alternatively, one can look at the types of children involved by looking at early research papers such as Gender Identity Disorder and Psychosexual Problems in Children and Adolescents. The question was, would transitioning these children to look like a member of the opposite sex help them live a better quality of life? The overwhelming consensus was that, due to the immense problems with transitioning, counseling was the best pathway forward. Hence, some were offered counseling to deal with their underlying mental health issues. Those with autism were offered relationship skills training. Those who experienced same-sex attraction were guided through a process of self-acceptance. And those boys who were being bullied were taught methods to handle their difficulties. As a result, over 90% of these children grew up to be happy in their natal sex. The 10% who socially or medically transitioned said they would prefer to live as members of the opposite sex. For the psychologists involved, the primary cause of the children's gender confusion was the pre-existing psychological challenges. Also, none of the research papers mentioned that children were so desperate to transition that they would commit suicide if they couldn't immediately do so. In summary, all the pre-2013 studies showed that for most children, gender confusion is a temporary affair. For example, a 2008 study titled, A Follow-up Study of Girls with Gender Identity Disorder tracked 25 dysphoric children. Only 3 remained gender confused into adulthood. And yet again, a 2008 study titled, Psychosexual Outcome of Gender Dysphoric Children tracked 54 children. It concluded, most children with gender dysphoria will not remain gender dysphoric after puberty. In 2012, Dr. Kay Zucker of Canada, who counseled over 700 gender-confused children, mostly successfully, wrote a guidance manual to help other professionals understand the issues involved and how to deal with them. Of those who did prefer to live as members of the opposite sex, some took cross-sex hormones. They often experience serious health issues, for example, increased rates of cardiac disease, high blood pressure, blood clots, strokes, diabetes, cancers, osteoporosis in later life, and more. After a few years on testosterone, women are forced to have their wombs removed. Women's voices become masculine forever. All became sterile. Of those who did prefer to medically transition, many had serious ongoing medical complications due to the operations. Many no longer can experience an orgasm. The underlying psychological problems still cause problems for many of them. Moreover, a 2015 research study on the lives of transsexuals showed that they had one of the worst life outcomes for any subgroup in the population. They experienced high rates of HIV and partner violence. They had high rates of joblessness, often due to health issues, poverty, and homelessness. And they had high rates of loneliness, mental health issues, and prostituting themselves. As a result of all of the above, suicide rates were 20 times the norm. And yet today, the media, and even schools, present transitioning as if it were a walk in the park on a sunny day. It isn't. In the past, because of the immense challenges that transitioning presents, dysphoric children would often have months of counseling to see if this is really what they want to do and prepare them for the challenging life ahead. Considering this hard data, we need to ask why so many temporarily confused, psychologically challenged children today are being unnecessarily rushed into medical procedures that will sterilize and mutilate them for life. In 2018, Jennifer Bilek wrote a series of articles that revealed how some wealthy individuals had succeeded in turning a psychological issue into a human rights issue. They sought to create a false story around gender dysphoria as a means to institutionalize and politicize transgenderism for the sake of financial gain. In essence, in 2014, a coup occurred in this very small field of psychiatry. Between 2000 and 2014, some large American drug companies invested in some university hospitals to develop protocols for the transitioning of children. At the same time, various gender and social studies departments in the U.S. created a marketing strategy that would ensure that many more children would end up on the transitioning conveyor belt. These departments, knowing little about dysphoria as a psychological issue, invented the lies of born in the body of the wrong sex and they will all commit suicide if you don't let them transition. LGBT activists then promoted these lies in the media. And, with the truth not being told, almost everyone started to believe the lies. Additionally, psychologists that supported the counseling model were hounded out of their jobs, and anti-counseling, pro-mutilation doctors from the Unethical World Professional Association for Transgender Health, PATH, were installed in their place. Lastly, online thugs were paid to bully anyone who disagreed. The coup over this tiny field of science was complete. To understand how this coup in this small field of psychiatry happened, you can listen to The Terrible Fraud of Transgender Medicine by Dr. Quentin Van Meter on YouTube. Abortion clinics in the U.S. then joined in. They realized there was money to be made in handing out puberty blockers to children, with no counseling protocol being followed. These clinics give political donations to the Democrats. And the Democrats are known to fully support the rapid transitioning protocol. Then LGBT activists were invited into schools and companies, and the deception became institutionalized. Today, all these U.S. institutions make huge sums of money from the new child-harming instant affirmation model. Some pharmaceutical companies, some hospitals and doctors, the departments of gender and social studies, some abortion clinics, some LGBT activists and foundations. This instant affirmation protocol has caused thousands of children to unnecessarily transition. Of those who would have been previously helped by counseling, almost none receive such support today. The lie of this is conversion therapy makes sure they cannot be helped. The only choice offered to them is to transition. However, since schools have fallen for these falsehoods, many new groups of children, each with a different form of psychological challenge, have been led to believe that harming their bodies will cure their worries. With no counseling being offered, tens of thousands of vulnerable children in the West have been drawn into something that many will later regret. These new groups of children include those who are experiencing short-term body dysphoria, girls who have been raped, who never wish to be raped again, children who feel unpopular, children who just want to go along with their friends, and many more. And politicians in several nations and many U.S. states are making it hard for parents to get counseling help for these vulnerable children. As a result of the You Might Be Happier Living as a member of the opposite sex marketing campaign, a campaign that refuses to show the negative side effects of transitioning or fails to inform teens that they will probably grow out of their desire to transition within a couple of years, the number of gender clinics in America has mushroomed from just 2 in 2007 to over 70 today. Meanwhile, the profits of the money-making transgender cartel are projected to rise from $100 million some 10 years ago to $5 billion a year by 2030. As a result of so many children being deceived, hundreds of videos of detransitioners are now appearing on YouTube. These exploited young citizens talk about how their bodies are now seriously harmed by the drugs and operations, and about how they no longer can have children. Many are deeply depressed. They are not even 20, but their lives have been irrevocably harmed. It's important that people listen to some of the many detransitioner videos on YouTube, for example. Detrans Awareness Day panel discussion with detransitioners for No Way Back documentary. My Detransition Story, The Brainwashing of Youth. The Transitioner, here's what her doctors didn't tell her. And please listen to experts who talk about how ideology is running these gender clinics, not science. For example, Breaking the Silence, The Reality of Detransitioning. Trans clinic whistleblower speaks out. Gender clinic shut down, journalist breaks down investigation. A medical scandal as horrific as lobotomies, Dr. Miriam Grossman on gender-affirming care and what parents must know. In Europe, where the online bullies have less of a hold, gender clinics are starting to realize that PATH has sold them a deceptive narrative. They have stopped the instant affirmation protocol. In the UK, due to ideological possession, the primary gender clinic is being closed. However, with the rest of the National Health Service still being controlled by transgender falsehoods, it is not clear whether the pre-existing counseling protocols will be reintroduced. On the surface, the trans issue looks like a culture war between those who support the instant affirmation protocol and those who see the vast amount of social damage that this protocol creates. However, on a deeper level, what we are witnessing is the birth of an international cartel that has all the elements that we associate with groups like the mafia. This mafia cartel has a structure. At the top, there are the godfathers, the pharmaceutical companies. Then, some university departments keep creating new lies to embed the original lies deeper into the social fabric. Next, the departments of diversity, equity, and inclusivity in various social organizations act like the local branches of the mafia. They ensure compliance with the cartel through the creation of organizational policies and education seminars. Lastly, there are the social justice warriors, who act like the local thugs. They warn professionals that the godfathers will not be happy if they don't support the money-making lies. For example, eminent university lecturers have become terrified of their students and of being put through months of interrogation by the DEI courts for not supporting the born in the body of the wrong sex story and probably losing their careers. Moreover, professionals in many fields are now frightened to say how transgender theory is doing harm to their work. These professionals are not transphobic. They are trans-mafia-phobic. They are frightened of the bullies who can destroy their careers. If this industry was doing something honorable, if it was telling the truth, it would not need the online thugs to keep their harmful actions in place. Albert Einstein didn't need bullies to ensure that his new theories could be accepted. The only chance of releasing our nations from the trap our schools find themselves in is if our politicians can step in. They caused the problem in the first place by allowing natal females to be able to legally register as males. After that, it was all downhill. For example, this occurred in the 2010 UK Equality Act. Hence, only they can stop this madness. And they must do it as soon as possible before even more damage is done. In summary, only politicians can stop trans theory entering society. Only they have a stick that is large enough to warn society that support for the mafia cartel will not be tolerated. Politicians need to reverse all laws that allow a natal female to claim manhood. Next, politicians must stop funding any social institution that supports gender ideology. Also, the government needs to clear gender ideology out of the education system. Educators need to start telling the truth. And lastly, we need to go back to seeing gender confusion as the psychological issue it is, and seek to improve counseling services for those who need it. If school teachers shared the truth on this issue, far fewer children would be requesting to transition. If children were informed of the above data, then the transgender fad, which has reached a cult-like status in some schools, would immediately lose its appeal. And sanity would start to prevail. Please stop supporting the transgender mafia cartel and start protecting our children.